Hello there, people of the internet. This is a just for fun video. This is not something that should be taken as gospel. This is not a plan or motive or a call for anything to happen. This really is just a hypothetical that I'm making for this video, literally just for fun. All that being said, if you want to arm a lot of people, say have a non-state sanctioned militia for whatever reason it is that you might want, normally whenever you acquire a firearm on the commercial market, you have to fill out a 4473, which the ATF most definitely keeps tabs on. I gotta watch my wording really carefully with that. But I have absolutely no doubts whatsoever that there's a paper trail that can come back to every single firearm that is bought on the commercial market that has run through an FFL, just because that's how the system is designed. And if you want to arm a large group of people, but you want to do it in secret, then there's some things that you gotta look at. There's a couple of different ways that you can do that, but it's not going to be the easiest of processes. So first things first, there's like illegal ways to do it. And I'm not going to get into the illegal ways to do it because I don't want to get myself or anybody else in trouble. So we're just going to go ahead and say there's the illegal ways to arm a large number of people. But we're going to focus on the legal aspects of arming a bunch of people, because the goal is to become a militia or an armed group of people, but not outlaws. You don't want to give anyone an excuse to cause you trouble. So again, focused on the legal portion. So one of the biggest, easiest ways to legally do anything in terms of doing things without anybody knowing is to just do it yourself. There's a ton of different things out there that you can use to manufacture your own stuff. I'm not going to tell you what or how or anything like that just because of YouTube's rules, but you can go to Google, which for some reason they have no problems with you researching stuff on there, but you can't do it on YouTube. You can go to Google and look up how to do a bunch of different things. And it's a really, really good, easy way to figure out how to do the things that you're looking to do. I'm trying to pick my wordage for this particular video, which is like a gray area in terms of following rules. I'm trying to pick my words very carefully for this video. There's easy ways to make things, like this right here. I've made videos on this before. This is literally just like a piece of brass bar stock and a piece of aluminum bar stock held together with hose clamps. There's a little bit more that goes into holding these together, but I'm not going to go in depth on that. And I literally just hollowed this out to a 45 caliber and drilled a little hole right there to serve as a flash pan, and now I got myself a little single shot muzzleloader. And this right here is one of the reasons why certain laws will never be able to pass and withstand. So that's an option. You can make yourself a bunch of pipe shotguns, which is a fairly effective means, but not ideal. But the bottom line is you can go out and you can make your own stuff. If you have somebody with the skills to be able to mill out a receiver of some kind, maybe he has the jigs necessary, maybe he's got a CNC machine in his basement. I don't know. Who knows what you guys got going on? So making your own stuff, that is 110% a viable option. But a lot of people want to have that armed capability but do not have the capabilities to be able to make their own things. So that is going to be kind of the focus of the video. What are some things that you can get your hands on that nobody would know about? And I think one of the biggest ones that we can look at is probably going to be your muzzleloaders. Although these are by no stretch of the imagination ideal for literally anything, it is a good way to get a bunch of quote-unquote arms in the hands of a bunch of people without anybody really knowing about it. Because these right here, since they classify under US law as antique firearms, even the new-made ones, simply because they don't take a cartridge, this is a really good way to be able to get a bunch of stuff without anybody looking your way or asking any questions and whatnot, and then you can have yourself a whole armory of these things. On top of that, making your own powder is very easy to do. If you get a flintlock like this right here. Making your own flint, really not that difficult of a job. You can cast your own bullets. This is one of those things that you can keep up and running indefinitely. Granted, you're not going to be fighting. If you decide to use these in whatever sort of situation it is that you have thought of with this hypothetical video, you're not going to be fighting or anything like that. It's definitely going to be something more or less based along guerrilla warfare, taking a shot and running away, or maybe emergency sort of situations. But it is an option. It is a way to sling lead downrange without anybody knowing that you have the ability to. Same goes with cap and ball revolvers. These, because they don't take cartridges, fall under that same sort of situation. Now, there are conversion cylinders that you can get for these, or you can do like a full-fledged loading gate conversion for these to be able to use whatever cartridge it is that you decide to convert it to. A lot of people will tell you that with these, you need to use cowboy loadings, and if we're talking about early black powder revolvers, then yeah, I would recommend that. Or brass frame revolvers, you might want to consider that. But for the most part, if we're talking about modern steels and whatnot, these right here should be able to handle, if we have the conversion cylinders, which are rated for smokeless powder, they should be able to handle pretty much anything. I would recommend using at least lead bullets, just because the rifling on these is designed for lead. But they should be able to handle some pretty spicy pressures. I'm actually running some tests, not on this one, but on one of my black powder revolvers, just to kind of prove that point. Video coming soon, and from what I've been able to see so far, they can handle it. So, black powder rifles, black powder revolvers, those are a couple of really good options. If you manage to find someone skilled enough to... Where are you at? There you are. If you manage to find someone skilled enough to convert those black powder muskets into single-shot breech loaders, like what I have with this trapdoor right here. This right here is not a conversion, but the early versions of these were conversions. If you can manage to find someone to convert these into some sort of breech loading system to where you can load it with something else, some kind of metallic firing cartridge, then you have something that is at least a little bit more viable. So that's something to take into consideration. On top of that, there's antique firearms. A lot of people get confused as to what actually classifies as an antique firearm. The ATF website, they got the NFA definition on their website. That is not the current definition. The current definition is the 1968 Gun Control Act, and that basically says that any and all firearms made in or before 1898 are antiques, no matter what they shoot. The ATF is just physically trying to cause some confusion whenever it comes to that definition, and that's not going to hold up in court. So any antique gun, no matter what it is, you can buy it without having to run through any sort of FFL. They ship it right to your door. A lot of people, I'm sure, are going to say, oh, just get a CNR. Guess what? You got to keep the logs and whatnot for your CNR stuff. That stuff still has that paperwork trail. But this right here is a Steyr 8890. I think that this right here is going to be one of the best options that you can get. Chambered in 8x50 Steyr, which is easily made from 7.62x54R in your group of people. If you have just one person who is capable of making that cartridge, then you have a way to be able to arm a lot of people, because 7.62x54R brass is very easy to come by. I would recommend undercharging these by about 10%, maybe load them to about 30-40 Krag specs, simply because these actions they're from a black powder era, and they're just not that strong of actions. But if you decide to go the route of just using black powder, then you don't really have to worry about that. Again, black powder, very easily made, and you just have that as one of your options for these. But if you decide to go smokeless, I would recommend going smokeless if you are looking at anything for any real practical purposes. These right here have recently been imported into the country. There's a lot of them kicking around. They're all antiques. They're not very expensive. It's a good option. It really is a good option. Granted, they do take the Monlicker clip that you need to shove into your actual magazine itself to run the rifle, so you do have to get those. But if you got yourself an abundance of those and an abundance of converted 7.62x54R brass to be able to run in these things reliably, effectively, accurately, then this right here is a really good rifle. It's a 5-shot bolt-action straight pull rifle. Not exactly the best for modern standards, But I would take something like this over a muzzleloader any day of the week. This right here is just one option of the very predominant antique rifles out there on the market for not a lot of money. This right here is a Vetterli rifle. This one is in 10.4, but I would recommend going with like your 6.5 Vetterli. The Italians converted a lot of these rifles into 6.5 Carcano, undercharged those a bit. Just have someone who knows what they're looking at in terms of the Vetterli rifles, look at the locking lug system and whatnot, make sure everything is up to par. And these things can fire, or the Vetterli system can handle those 6.5 Carcano cartridges just fine as long as they are at a proper spec. So again, undercharge them, I'd say about 30 to 50%, depending on the longevity of your particular rifle. But these are very inexpensive guns, and again, they're antiques. They get shipped right to your door. There is no FFL that you got to go through, anything like that. You just get the rifle. My camera battery just died. I'm sorry about that. But I was talking about these antique guns. Now, there's other antique guns that you can find out there, like, for example, that trapdoor Springfield that I showed you. The thing is that trapdoor Springfield, although it is a single-shot breech loader, other antique guns like that are more expensive, like your Steyr 8890 and your Vetterli rifles. The reason why those are a primary that I bring up is because they're extremely inexpensive. You can find those for like between $100 to $200 depending on condition, where it is that you're getting from, etc., etc. And you don't have to worry about spending a lot of money on one singular arm. That's why I said I think that the Steyr 8890 is the best bang for the buck, especially if you have somebody who can actually make ammunition for it. All you need is just one dude who is competent in reloading enough to be able to do the very easy conversions for that rifle to make ammunition for it, and you got yourself a really good setup. So, yeah, those guns, they're easy to find and they're cheap and they're overly abundant and saturated right now in the market just because there's a big import of them that's being brought into the country. Unlike something like the trapdoors, or if you manage to find a bunch of, say, original lever actions made in or before 1898, all of those are antiques. I don't care what they're chambered in, 30-30, 44-40, 45-70, whatever it is. They're all antiques. They all can get shipped right to your door simply from U.S. gun law. However, those original firearms are going to be very expensive, like very, very expensive, and arming a lot of people with something like that might be a little bit more on the difficult side. Same thing with like original Colts. Like if you manage to find a bunch of 1873 original Colts, those are all antiques as long as they're made before that particular date that we had talked about. So there are better options out there than what it is that I'm offering here right now, but for the amount of money that you're spending, I think that that's going to be the best way to go. Figure out somebody, or you yourself learn the skills to be able to convert cartridges for one of these rifles, the Steyr 8890. And I mean, this one I bought for $100 on a sale that was going on at RTI. And I think they're actually, as of right now, me recording this, I think they're currently having another sale, and I believe those are on sale for like $150 right now. But if you manage to get yourself a Steyr 8890 and a cap and ball revolver, potentially converted to something else, like this one's 44 caliber, so I would convert it to either 45 long Colt or 45 ACP, then you got yourself a pretty good setup. Honestly, I would want a loading gate conversion. This way I don't have to break the revolver down and remove the cylinder every time that I want to reload my thing. But that's not a bad option. Like, for there being no paper trails and nobody knowing anything of what it is that you have a 5-shot smokeless powder bolt action rifle in essentially a full power rifle cartridge. Granted, it's going to be a little bit less powerful than, say, 30-06, but you got yourself a 5-shot bolt action rifle and a 6-shot revolver. If you go the conversion cylinder, then it's going to be a 5-shot revolver because you're going to want to have your hammer down on an empty chamber. But that's not a bad setup, I'll be honest. Like, if you get yourself 20, 30 guys all armed with something like that right there, although it is far from ideal, don't get me wrong, that is not something that you would actually want to go for, but it's a good way to get some kind of system in the hands of all of these people without anybody knowing. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. The description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode.
I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.